Hi everyone, I just wanted to introduce you to Hugh Mann. This is the model that we'll use a lot in the anatomy portion, the lab portion of A&P 201 as well as in 202. We can see a lot of different body systems, and the way that Hugh's been cut away, we can see different views that are a little more superficial, a little bit deeper at different points through our studies. Many of the different body systems and different organs, we're going to zoom in and have a very specific organ model or system model that we're going to look at. But there's some important organs and organ systems we need to be familiar with that we really need to look at a more holistic view, looking at a larger whole body. That's why we have Hugh. Now, Hugh is neither male nor female. If you look, there's missing some anatomical parts and the entire reproductive system. We have the male and female reproductive organs, reproductive system models that we'll use when we get to those systems in 202. All right, so on the most superficial level, we can see Hugh has skin, right? This external, most superficial organ, all right? We can see Hugh's lips. Deep to this is his mouth. There's his teeth that are deep to the lips. The nose, I say his, it could be her. Then the nose right here, the different nostrils. The eyes on either side. This side has actually been cut away so we can see a little bit of the muscle peeking through, as well as the bone, the mandible here, the maxilla, several of the organs, the frontal bone that we'll talk about on the actual skull models later on. We can see it's cut even deeper up here to expose the brain behind the cranium, behind the skull. We can actually see where his ear sits, the internal structure of the ear here near the bone. And then if we look on this side, we can actually see the external surface portion of the ear and the hair on top of the head, that hair. And then as we move into the neck, as we move a little more inferiorly, we can actually see the thyroid gland right here. Okay, looks kind of like a butterfly. We can see different veins and arteries. Systemic veins are going to be blue, systemic arteries red. That's flipped going to the lungs. We'll focus on that in 202. But then some major organs that we'll also talk about. We have the lungs on either side. Remember, this is an anatomical position. So this is Hugh's right lung and his left lung, or her right lung and her left lung. We can pull those back and actually see some deeper structures, take off about half of each lung. And that exposes the heart, which sits in between or medial to the lungs, okay? We can actually see the aorta coming out. We can see the superior and at the bottom, the inferior vena cava, which we'll talk about when we talk about the chambers of the heart. We can actually pull apart the heart into several sections and see the 4 different chambers, the atria, the ventricles. But we're going to focus those a little bit more in 202 actually on some more detailed models. So there's the heart. All right, and when we pull back the heart, we can see a deeper view where we see the esophagus coming through. Okay, we could trace that all the way back up coming from the mouth. Deep here is the esophagus. We have the trachea right here, which separates into 2 bronchi, or a bronchus, a singular for either side, which go into the lungs. All right, we have the diaphragm, which here on the top is white. It's this large muscle below the lungs. Okay, and that separates the 2 body cavities here. So below the esophagus, as we keep traveling down, this would be inferior to the esophagus, right? We have the liver sitting out here. We're gonna go ahead and pull the liver out, this big, large, kind of brown, maroon colored organ. Sitting behind the liver, or more dorsally, more posteriorly, we have the gallbladder, this green organ, so the whole liver and the gallbladder, okay? Then we can see most of the rest of the digestive tract once we pull out the liver. So the esophagus connects in with the stomach, okay? Sitting behind the stomach right here, more posteriorly, we have the pancreas. So let's go and pull out the stomach. That's the pancreas, okay? We have also sitting more posteriorly, we have the spleen, which sits here on the side, okay, on the left side of Hugh. We have 2 kidneys, one here, and if we actually pull out this section, we can see the other kidney right there, okay? Those are the 2 kidneys. And then the beginning of the small intestine, the duodenum, and we'll talk more details about the duodenum when we get to 202. So from the duodenum, it continues we can kind of see it on if we turn around the intestines model, okay? It comes in down here on the bottom. We can see it moving through the sides. This center region right here that's kind of this pinky peach color, that's the small intestine, okay? The small intestine connects in right here at the ileocecal junction into the large intestine. So that dark gray organ is the large intestine all the way around. If we look on a posterior view of the large intestine, we can actually see the appendix, this little hook-shaped organ that's continuous with the large intestine. Okay, and then the large intestine is going to be keep going right down into the sigmoid colon right here, this S shape that's going to continue down into the rectum. All right, we can see the urinary bladder right here. We can see the ureters coming from the kidney down towards the urinary bladder on both sides, kidney, ureter, urinary bladder. Then we can see the some of the different muscle layers that we'll focus on in the different muscle models later on. All right, and so that completes kind of a general overview of Hugh. And I will say here, this also is showing the lymphatic vessels, which we'll talk about in 202. And that pretty much concludes all of the major organs that we'll discuss on Hugh.